Welcome to the Listen Up podcast, where we explore hearing loss, communication, connections, and health.
Hey everybody, Dr. Mark Sims here. I'm the host of the Listen Up podcast, where I feature top leaders in healthcare. This episode is brought to you Listen Up Hearing Center. I help patients to effectively treat their hearing loss so that they can connect better with their family and friends and remain independent. The reason I am so passionate about hearing loss is I lost my brother Robbie twice. First to hearing loss from radiation to his brain tumor, and then when he passed away. I am the founder of Listen Up Hearing Center. I'm also an ear, nose, and throat doctor who only cares for ears. I'm the ear of ear, nose, and throat. I've performed over 10,000 ear surgeries and taken care of many more with hearing loss. I have written a book called Listen Up, A Physician's Guide to Effectively Treating Your Hearing Loss. If you want to learn more about any of this, go to listenuphearing.com. That's listenuphearing.com. Today, we have a really interesting guest. It's Hank Sarazin. He's the founder and CEO of Onsite Dental and Onsite Hearing Care. Hank grew up in Rhode Island and now resides in Falmouth, Maine with his wife and two girls. He graduated from Bryant University in 1986 with a degree in accounting. After spending some time in finance, he joined a former colleague in a mobile dental company out of Florida. That company went under, but from that, he decided to start Onsite Dental Care in 2005. He's guided that company and grown it over the past 17 years. And now he has also added in 2016 Onsite Hearing Care to accompany Onsite Dental. Currently, Onsite Hearing Care provides services to over 100 assisted living communities in New England and continues to grow. We're excited to have Hank on as a guest to discuss Onsite Hearing Care and what that model entails. Hey, Hank, thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Doctor. I was going to call you Dr. Sims.
Yeah, that's great, Hank. I appreciate it. So in terms of this, I guess when you joined the first dental company that went under, was that the first people to have the idea of providing care to assisted living facilities, or was it one of many? Or in other words, Onsite Dental even, is it kind of the originator, or are there others in the space?
No, I'm unique in the sense that I focus on assisted living.
Right.
There's a different model out there that focuses on the skilled nursing side of the business. And I think, Mark, that's one thing that a lot of folks, when they look at long-term care, they don't know the different segments of it. And
we'll talk about the different segments. That's actually a really good thing to understand.
Yeah, it's evolved and grown, and it's kind of logical. You've got independent living facilities, which have grown and are unique. There's a company out of Maryland called Erickson. It's a good example of having some independent living communities. So I wouldn't say they're those 55 plus communities, because these tend to be places where you got a little bit of services, but no true nursing or no true sort of, subset healthcare items on the menu, so to speak. And I use the word menu because when you move to assisted living, you now start to get into a little bit more of a menu-driven situation where, you're going to have a nurse on staff. She doesn't provide direct care, but she's going to help work with families to make sure that whatever care mom or dad might be getting, they're getting it. There are med programs. It is for a person who, as I like to say, the best example, Mark, of a resident in an assisted living community is, you and I are brothers. Our dad died 5 years ago. We go visit mom in the big house. We pull into the driveway. We walk into the house. It's a little messy. The grass needs to be cut. The hedges need to be trimmed. And you kind of lean over to me and go, do you think mom still knows the oven's on?
Right.
Mom's not chronically sick, but maybe she's not safe anymore.
Needs some monitoring or some guidance.
And we're nervous. So that starts that process of a lot of families, they sell the house, they move mom into assisted living. It's a pretty rugged transition. Mom's not too happy about it. She's losing her independence, right? And that's that whole process, taking the keys away. It's difficult. It's really hard. So that's assisted living. It plays a great role because it gives families that security. Mom's a little forgetful now. Maybe she's not taking her meds the right way. Then obviously the next level of care is where you have the skilled nursing, which, that's really at a point where a person is in need of day-to-day nursing care. More often than not, that person is fully embraced in our healthcare system with both Medicare and a lot of times the Medicaid. That support is now kicked in, the family's managing things such. So that's a very regulated business because now you're talking about federal funds paying for the care of the person. So now you get into audits, and you've got to make sure that every resident in a skilled nursing facility is getting the proper care when the CDC comes in and does their audit. And then the last group, the final group, they call it the CCRC group, which is a really growing part of things, is it's all three of the ones I just mentioned all under one roof with a bit of a guarantee. So you get to move into maybe an apartment complex that is independent living, and you still have your car and you're still taking care of yourself, but you've arranged a contract on this large campus where you will, follow the continuum, and they'll guarantee you a space as you go along. So I do think I ask that question a lot when I'm interviewing people. Do you know what an assisted living community is? And a lot of people sort of think I'm talking about a nursing home. And I think assisted living is fantastic, Mark. It's, they really try to make them seem like hotels. There's a concierge. They've got pianos. There's, the best to try to do some activities. Get the people engaged, which it's one of my favorite words in sort of senior care, is just staying active in any way, shape, or form. And hence is where the senses play such a big role, I think, in assisted living, because, my mom and dad had passed away, but if I can't wake up and know that I can enjoy eating my food and smell the flowers and see the birds and experience life, I'm really not very motivated to wake up.
Sure.
And I for me, I kind of jump on my soapbox a little bit here, Mark, because, we look at our healthcare system right now and I see very old people qualifying for hip replacement, right? A very expensive procedure, when they really have no ability to do the rehab after the procedure.
Sure.
And they end up in a wheelchair anyways.
Right.
With $50,000 of healthcare funds, yet they don't pay for any dental care. They don't pay for any vision care. They don't pay for any hearing care. They do pay for a little bit of podiatry, but what does mom really want? Those basic things, right? It's always puzzling to me.
Rationality is not necessarily built into the healthcare system. A global rationality, right? So, certainly it's attempt to be data driven. Most data drives giving people care. There's very little data that drives not giving people care.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. It's much harder to deny people care than it is to have data to say they should get the care, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so that's great. So you're in the assisted living side of it, right? Not the independent living side. And so at that point, the presumption is maybe they're not as mobile, not as able to go out and do stuff. And so it sounds like, you kind of came into this in 2005-ish, or maybe a little bit before, and you started with the dental model. And I assume that was because were you one of the first of the market or one of the first people?
Well, it was, the company that I had worked for, they were leading with dental, and that was their play. They were looking at the whole market, the skilled nursing and everything. And again, they, kind of typical, they had a lot of private equity money. And as you know, Mark, if you have a lot of money, what do? You spend a lot of money. So they moved through that money. And I think, sometimes looking back, they made some choices, try to develop their own software, because back in 2005, there was no such thing as the cloud. There was no software like that. Now, all my software works great. It's really nice. We were joking. You
wouldn't have a server. You don't want a server now.
Correct. But we were talking once a year, we meet with our technology company. We're a mobile healthcare company. So HIP is alive and well, and we have a good security system. And we were kind of joking because back maybe a good 12 years ago, we were sort of talking because there was some enterprise software out there. We were having this conversation about, could we attach dishes to our vans? We actually had that conversation. So we could connect and use an enterprise style software. And obviously, like I said, now, got digital x-ray fly through the internet like it's nothing. My doctors can, for dentist side of it, they can get the x-rays on their cell phone if they have to have a conversation. So certainly technology's had a great play, but I started the dental business just because that's where I had bounced off of the prior company. Always sort of looking, vision's been something I'd like to do There's been a few vision companies. The challenge with that is the equipment. The equipment is very, it's just not, mobile at all. And hearing care, we can be pretty nimble with hearing healthcare technology. And even on the dental side, that's not so bad for us. The military has contracts out. So most of the mobile dental equipment was initially designed for the military.
Right, to get it into the theater.
Yeah, I've got custom carts that I've made, and we have a van that pulls up. The dental gear is, pretty substantial. We have a chair and all that. But as you know, we're really lucky. Almost every assisted living community has an executive dining room that they call. So it's a nice big dining room that they set aside. So if a family wants to have a dinner with their mom, they can use that. The community uses it for meetings and so forth. But it sits available a lot. So we do use the dining rooms, which have doors, can close. But with the new technology, the sound canceling and so forth, and the needs of the patient class, right? I think, Mark, that's important. A very important part. When I'm looking at our patient base, I kind of like to make this statement that we're not just treating a patient, we're treating a family.
Sure, because they want peace of mind knowing that whatever the health care that's being vested in or resources are being spent is actually being spent well and getting them what they want.
Yeah, and they're involved now. A lot of sons and daughters are functioning as powers of attorneys and healthcare proxies, helping coordinate this. Some live near their moms and dads, some don't. We talk to people in Florida about their mom living in an assisted living community in Connecticut. I also think, too, part of it is we tend to look at the building as part of the picture, too, in assisted living. Because, again, when the family moves their mom or dad into an assisted living community, they've got expectations that I think sometimes are a little high. I think they assume the assisted living community is going to be capable of loving their mom as much as they do.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
And of course they do with everything they have, but it's impossible. No one can love their mom or dad as much as the sons and daughters. So we really try to get as much of it involved. It's hard. Staffing challenges are a big challenge for the assisted living industry right now. But when we look at that, and it usually starts with a son or daughter calling us saying, "Hey, I'd like to set my mom or dad up with a hearing appointment." And then we go down that process. We're trying to keep our blinders off and keep that in mind. Because like you said, what are the sons and daughters' goals? Maybe it's just to be able to talk to mom and dad on the cell phone.
Sure. And so when you're saying that, it sounds like you're doing mobile hearing tests and mobile hearing aid fittings. Is that right? Right.
Yeah.
And that's all on a cart, or?
We have sort of a couple of cases that we've put together that we bring the gear in. We do use the temp as well. And the reason we use that is we've engaged, as you know, Mark, impacted earwax is an enormous problem for this patient class. So we've been working with the friends. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Otoset.
No.
SafeCon. So there's some folks that have come up with a headset.
That irrigates.
Irrigates, which...
Yeah, I've seen the films. I mean, I hope they work, but it looks kind of gross where it collects they show that.
But
if it works, it works. It's great.
The other issue is because we're on the dental side, we have to see all their med lists because of the invasiveness of dental care. A huge percentage of these residents are on blood thinners.
Right.
So going in there, poking around with the best of skills and the best of intentions with a curate to clear out some earwax can be, and then the bleeding, your ears, once they start bleeding, so it is a good solution from that viewpoint.
Sure.
It's a new device on the market. The folks are well intended, and I think that they're on to something.
No, I hope it works. It's it just. The concept where they show the clear containers collecting wax is kind of unsightly, but I mean, I deal with wax all day.
It worked. It's what happens. You know what I mean? It does work, and then it's easy to dispose of them. But it's like you said, it's new technology. But I like the folks. They're well intended. They have a good story. They're why they're behind this. And for us, I think it's a good tool for us, and we give them a lot of feedback on it because it'll leak a little bit. It'll has its challenges, of course, but and then from there, we see a lot of people, it's ironic, Mark. You would tend to think that a lot of folks would give mom the quote unquote tune up before they move her into the assisted living.
No, they move them in, then do the tune up.
And then they're relying on all this stuff. And, I do have a belief that, it's kind of like an old car. We're not going to rebuild this thing head to toe, but you clean it up good, some new brakes, some new tires, a new exhaust. And all of a sudden, we all know when when you wash a car, it seems to always run better. It's like this thing in your head. Well, I think that matters to mom. Mom wants to look good. She wants to have dignity and pride, and she wants her senses to be active enough so that she can participate and be part of things, not a burden. And I think when it comes to, even, we don't even think about it, Mark, but when you're a little old lady and you've got dentures and partials and different things, you want to go take a big bite of that juicy hamburger, and it's a challenge versus just being able to take a nice bite out of the hamburger. And I think it's the same thing with hearing. They want to participate in a conversation. And as a doctor, far more than I do, that cycle that happens of missing a small piece of the conversation, spending time thinking about that, then getting back in the conversation, and you've missed the last two sentences.
Sure.
And they chase it. And that's frustrating for everybody involved. And I think, for us, we deal with that. The other segment that is really amazing to see, because we've had some amazing stories, but there's a lot of cognitive decline in the group, Mark, including some real formal stuff in a sense.
That's why their son or daughter are oftentimes moving them.
I would say 90% of the time it is you're worrying about not mom's health as much as her awareness and her ability to manage her day to day. Like I said, I see it with I shouldn't say this. I see it with my mother-in-law taking her meds. And it's like, are you taking the right meds at the right time every day in the right order? And now if you get a husband and wife and they've each got their own med thing, and some of those med programs I think are invaluable for an older person. They guarantee that you're taking the right meds at the right time each day.
Great.
But in that cognitive space, for me being a lay person, but yet I get the privilege of spending so much time thinking about the business and thinking about the implications of it. It's pretty simple. You can't remember what you can't hear. That is a simple fact. And making that ability, we have truly had some instances where we've gone in, whether they have old hearing aids or older aids, and we've been able to get them going, or the family's motivated to try to get them into some new technology. And all of a sudden, things start to happen. The awareness goes up. Then the challenge is we leave, and how can that person manage the hearing aids? They get lost. It's glasses, dentures, hearing aids. The cognitive decline. I mean, I know we can't use the word Alzheimer's because technically you don't have Alzheimer's until you're diagnosed with it, and that can only happen at the autopsy at the end of life. But clearly we see lots of folks who are in secured sections of assisted living communities with significant memory loss. And it's a hard thing to try to help them do better. But yet all of a sudden, every now and then, they'll have one of those moments. So how do you help deal with you're right. Retention and not losing the technology is a huge problem. So what do you guys do to address it? We put Otosets on. Some communities will manage them. We've had families purchase the hearing aids, and basically the building holds on to the hearing aids until the family says, put them on my mom so that I can have a conversation with them. As I said, it's a full recipe of what, the family, the building, and mom, and what is the right solution. And so when you say building, you mean the staff, I think is what you're saying. The staff, yeah, which there's more staff and there's more trained staff in those secured areas of an assisted living. Sure. The provider to patient ratio is more intense. Yeah. And there's training in our staff. I have a couple of our HISs that have taken some dementia training, which we do it once a year with the company. And there's not a lot known out there. There's a lot of ideas out there. I like to have it done just so that everybody pauses a little bit and just sort of remembers there's a person in there. Sure. And the mission statement for the company is probably one of the proudest things that I've done in the whole business model. Making it through COVID was pretty good, I will say. But the mission statement is to care, to respect, and to advocate. And I wrote that when I was writing the business plan in 2004. And I talk about the people in the building. They've chosen to take care of people for a living every day. That's right. Really, really hard work. Not a lot of thank yous come down the pike. So it's sort of a 360-degree proposition within my organization. And, as I say to all of the people, we have the easy job in a sense. We go in with all the tools and all the education and all the discipline that we've learned, and we do the tests, and we use that to come up with our solutions, whether they be dental or hearing.
Right.
But then we have to present that to the family, and then the family has to make the hard decision because they have to make the finances and fatality decision. Do I want to invest this amount of money in my mom based on where her health is? And that's a really hard thing to do, Mark. Really hard thing. And we try to coach them a little bit, but at the end of the day, sometimes we bump into affluent families and they don't care. But I want my mom to have the best of the best of the best, whatever it costs. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And we move forward with that. And then sometimes we run into families that are just trying out to figure out, after they pay the rent, they don't have a heck of a lot of extra funds, but they really do want. So, we use pocket talkers, we present to the family any various array of opportunities to hopefully just better the situation and improve the quality of life. Because, residents in an assisted living community, it's their last couple laps around the track.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
If we can make it great, I think most people would love to have them, be in an assisted living community, go to sleep one night, and maybe you don't wake up the next morning and not have to go to that skilled nursing facility.
Sure.
That's tough stuff. And that's even harder work to get into. But I believe that, in assisted living, being able to help people improve their senses is a really
connection. Right.
Exactly. And that's where, I say advocate because, a lot of times, there isn't someone advocating for them. And I think a lot of times the families, we try to become part of the family. The new patient call for us is, sometimes people ask me, what's our secret sauce? I have a group of folks in our office and they do the new patient calls. And Mark, they very often go like this. So when was the last time your mom had her hearing tested? Or when was the last time your mom went to the dentist? And we get, I don't know anything about my mom's care. I don't know who her dentist is. I don't know what kind of medication but they now have this adult child to take care of. And it's overwhelming. And that phone call, that new patient call, that can be 20, 30 minutes long. And we might never meet that son or daughter because they live in Florida.
They live elsewhere, yeah.
And we're trying to put a plan together to help their mom or dad do a little better, whether it be, eating their food or listening to the entertainment that's coming this evening.
So I assume the referrals come from, as you call it, the building, the staff. Is that how it works? Or
yeah, the community. We have some simple marketing. Mark, as you can imagine, they don't give us the database. There's privacy, So you put your mom in an assisted living community and you're paying rent of what you pay. You certainly don't want this guy and that guy. So we have some simple processes. We get a flyer up on the bulletin board. We have a sign up sheet. We'll do events in the building. We kind of call them circle talks. Just get some of the residents together with our dispenser or our dental folks. And I have a couple of regional managers. We call them community relations managers. They're very informal. We call them root beer float socials. We try to bring back some of those fun things. And then, as I said, just getting folks in the chair. When you move in, we have a consent form in the forms, but we're certainly not hammering it. I would have to say, I think for our business model, when I started it in 2005, I might have been just a little bit ahead of the curve, mobile healthcare, and we grinded for a lot of years. But the impact of COVID, yes, we all got shut down. We understand that.
Sure. But what people accept as care has changed.
Correct. I think mobile health and telehealth is much more accepted. And
sure.
I also think that the idea of it was always kind of tricky for a son or daughter to go and take their mom or dad out of the community, particularly if there was some cognitive challenges. But I think now the idea of the risks that could be associated, because everybody has that fear now of COVID, right? The flu or whatever. So I would say post-COVID, we're seeing organically more folks getting into our chair. Another dynamic, Mark, that's happening, and I think this is a very enormous part of what healthcare is going to experience, is we're going through a major change from the great generation to the baby boomers. Baby boomers turned 77 this year. They're starting to enter our long-term care and our healthcare systems, and they're accessing that next level of care that a person at that age tends to need. Prior, the number of teeth that residents have now compared to 10 years ago, just significantly more.
Right.
The familiarity with going to doctors and getting routine care, the boomers did that. The great generation, they didn't go to the doctor unless it hurt.
Right.
And if it hurt, usually the result was an aggressive treatment. You went to the dentist, and if it hurt, they pulled it. Now you go to the dentist and it hurts, they fix it.
Or they try to save the tooth. Yeah.
Try to save the tooth. So that we're seeing that happening. And also, we've had more than a few sons and daughters say to us, don't tell mom insurance is paying for this. Don't tell mom how much this costs. If mom knew how much we were paying for her to live in that assisted living community, because, those great generation people, they bought a house for $20,000. Now they sold it for $500, which was that win for them. But the baby boomers, they've got different experiences. They have pensions and 401k plans, and many of them are starting to look at long-term care insurance, and they're more prepared for the conversation of investing in their health. So I think that aspect of assisted living is starting to show up a little bit. And in the next few years, the numbers I have heard, Mark, I'm sure you've heard similar numbers. I've been told that starting this year, they're 77. The boomers turned 77 in 2023 at a click of 10,000 a day.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
Yeah. And then that goes on for 20 years. So 10,000, 77, 76, 75. And then next year, you add a year to that whole group.
Right.
So I think that and you look at what the boomers have done to college, housing along the way, they're ready for this. I think healthcare is going to be at the whim of the baby boomers. They're going to tell you what they want, and they're going to be able to pay for it. And hopefully, like they've always done, the lower income brackets will benefit from them building some systems that then those folks can access through, whether it be their Medicare, Medicaid, or other means. But, that's, as you know, healthcare and paying for healthcare is a conversation for the ages.
Yes, very much so. Well, this has been really fascinating, Hank. I mean, and I really appreciate you taking the care to them rather than the other way around. So I think it's a fascinating model. Tell me, I ask everybody this, what's your favorite sound?
So I'm really lucky, Mark. I live in Maine, and my family is at a camp on a lake in Maine. And if you know anything about people that live in Maine, we all own a camp. Now, right. A camp can mean a platform that you pitch a tent on. It can also mean a 6,000 square foot cedar camp. But I have a camp on a lake, and I don't know if you've ever had the privilege of hearing a loon at night, or even better, hearing many loons at night when it's perfectly calm and the sun is setting and there's no other sound than those birds.
That's great.
It's unbelievable, because it's just, they make a couple of different sounds and they're each so unique. So that's probably my favorite sound, is the cry of a loon.
That's great. So everybody, this is Hank Sarazin. He's the founder and CEO of Onsite Dental and Onsite Hearing. Hank, if people wanted to get a hold of you, how would they find you? LinkedIn or what?
I'm on LinkedIn. Obviously, we've got a dental website, Onsite Dental Care and Onsite Hearing Care. So you can Google and find both of those. And as I mentioned, I'm on LinkedIn. Yes.
So this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing your insights in terms of hearing care and that segment in the assisted living facility space.
Great, Mark. Thank you for having me. It was really nice meeting you. Thank you for doing this and bringing information out there, because a guy like me, I'm always looking for information.
Sure.
Trying to see if I can do it
better.
I always say, build a better mousetrap.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to see if I can tweak things just a little bit more. There's nothing more enjoyable than treating these sweet little old ladies. And as I always say to end kind of things is, there's no health code. In dentistry, they say decode, but in insurance, there's always a code. There's no code for kisses, Mark.
Yeah.
If there was, I would be a billionaire because we give away a lot of kisses at this company.
Oh, that's great. That's a great slogan. So, all right. Thanks for coming on, Hank. This has been great stuff. I appreciate your time.
Nice to meet you. Take care.
Nice to see you too.
Thanks for tuning in to the Listen Up podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get updates on future episodes.